So I think I found by far the biggest hole in the argument by Trump supporters that Canadians don't have a distinct national identity. And it makes them huge hypocrites to say this because they themselves claim that America's national identity is based heavily on the American Revolution and the beliefs of the founding fathers, which tend to be individualistic and libertarian in nature, and that kind of ideology is engraved in their DNA. Like you're un-American if you're not at least somewhat libertarian and individualistic. And also this idea of like, oh, a nation born in revolution, so that they have this like revolutionary spirit or whatever. Well, guess what? We have a different history. And I think if people want to say like Canadians and Americans are exactly the same. Canada's not a real country. We have exactly the same culture, same identity. It's like, okay, but their founding fathers are not our founding fathers. We are not beholden to the ideology of libertarianism and individualism to the extent Americans are. And I'm thankful we're not, because frankly, a lot of these policies are not helping Americans, like their healthcare system, for instance. Like it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, when we were in the US, my dad got saddled with a $17,000 bill for a tiny little hospital visit where they barely even did anything. Now, thankfully, we had insurance and they covered that. But my point is, yeah, okay. All this libertarian individualist thinking has led to the United States having certain laws or lack of laws or just systems, practices, programs that are just very alien to us as Canadians. Not only that, but frankly, alien to the rest of the world as a whole. Like the United States is in many ways a global outlier with some of its more libertarian practices and views in general. Like this idea that like taxation is theft, that government is fundamentally illegitimate, that everything should be privatized, this idea of like extremely small government. It's not something that most of the world believes in or supports. And I'd say Canada is more like that than most countries, but definitely less than the United States. And like to say that, oh, we're basically the same country, we're the 51st state, it's like we have a totally different history. And it's like you're going to be letting in a region that has no tie to like the American Revolution, the founding fathers, or any of that. Like we have no allegiance to that. We have no inherent reason to feel loyal to these ideas. And it's like, okay, if you make me an American, I am going to shill on behalf of big government. I am going to say, yes, I want public health care. Yes, I want more public transit. Yes, I want higher taxes on the rich and even the upper middle class. Yes, I support robust government spending in many regards. I support definitely in national parks, definitely in preserving historic architecture, and even potentially building new architecture of that style. Um, which is something, again, these people find it alien. They just believe like government should do basically nothing and leave everything up to the corporations and the free market. And it's like, okay, that's your ideology, that's your heritage, that's not our heritage. That's not our belief system. Like that's not the ideals that Canada was founded upon. Like frankly, we were founded by loyalists to the British Empire, by people who did not engage in a violent revolution and did not freak out over like, oh, my taxes. And we basically maintained good enough relationships, a good enough relationship with the British Empire that we were eventually able to simply become our own country peacefully. Now, you could say we weren't truly an independent country at that time. Maybe we're not today. Like maybe today we're still beholden to the UK a little bit, because technically, I believe, yeah, technically the King of England is our head of state, I think. Actually, I'm not sure how exactly that works. Like we have a prime minister, we have a governor general, and then there's the king or queen of England. Yeah, I need to look that one up. But seriously, it doesn't matter though, because my point is, okay, my point is we are still part of the Commonwealth of the UK, like of the monarchy. Like we still have that tie. The United States hasn't had that tie in like 250 years. Like honestly, it's a very different situation. And we have a very different history in that regard. And frankly, they're negating their own. They're hypocrites because they talk so much about how, oh, we're so proud of our history, or the American Revolution, the founding fathers, but then they negate all that by saying, well, Canada's the 51st state. Why are you even a separate country? We're exactly the same. It's like, no, we're not the same because we don't both have that history. We did not both evolve with that history. And I even notice it when talking to Americans, like with very few exceptions. Like I do know a few individual Americans who aren't libertarian at all, but I find with Americans in general, it's very hard to scratch away the libertarianism. It's like you talk to an American long enough and you will get at least some libertarian views coming out of them. With exceptions, but I would say by and large, yes. Even Democrats, like even a lot of them balk at the idea of vacation time, of legally guaranteed vacation time for employees. Like even I think like Bernie Sanders might have proposed it, but he's like, or maybe AOC, but they're like the only ones. Like most of the Democrats think that's going too far. And these are people who would be okay with like federally mandated prison quotas where the number of white prisoners needs to be at least as high as the white population. And the number of white employees needs to be at least as low as the white population, that much or less, whereas prisoners that much or higher. They would support those kinds of policies, but with vacation time, they're like, oh, well, that's big government. Oh, that's un-American. Like they suddenly, it's like scratch them hard enough, like even a lot of the Democrats, and you'll see a libertarian underneath, at least on some issues. Like vacation time's a big one. Like Americans are really bad on that issue. Even Democrats, even blue staters. I've seen it like in the way, like on Reddit, like the way they talk about vacation time there. It's like the idea of legally guaranteed vacation time just seems like a bizarre abstraction to them, and they can't even comprehend it, and they think it's like the most radical policy ever. And these are the same people who would probably be okay with like arresting random white people just for being white to fulfill some sort of like minimum prison quota to ensure that blacks aren't overrepresented. Yeah, they'd be fine with those kinds of policies, but vacation time is a bridge too far. And that's an area where the libertarianism just runs very deep in Americans. As I said, including your blue staters, your urbanites, your Democrats, your Redditors, including all those the soy boys, even them. Vacation time is like, whoa, that's a bridge too far. And I'm not saying our 2 weeks vacation time in Canada is anything to brag about, but at least we have some guaranteed vacation time by law. And there's other things too, like parental leave. Like all these feminists in the United States, that they don't see maternal leave as like a big thing to fight for, which I find really weird. Like no, they just accept this shit. They just accept that like they're slaves to their job and that they're basically chained to their fucking desk. And again, it's a very American thing, a very libertarian thing. Like, and it's alien to us Canadians, like the idea of like being such a slave to your job to this extent. But Americans, including left-wing Americans, largely just accept it as a fact of life. So again, like in these ways, I think the political differences actually do run deep. Like I think even the American left on economic issues is still way to the right of us. I think on social issues, the American left is very left-wing. Like there's a lot of wokeness, like serious, like hardcore wokeness on social issues. But on economic issues, America's like a global outlier. The only others who are kind of like them in the world is certain East Asian countries, I think. Like I guess like maybe Singapore, but even they have like more state capitalist policies. But I mean, they do tend to be like have a certain workaholic culture that they share in common with America, like Singapore, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, etc. Although one thing that we actually do share in common with America more than many Americans realize is that we do have plenty of guns here. And if they ever do actually like militarily invade us, then they'll find out firsthand. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, yes, that is one thing. We're not as gung ho about guns as they are, but we do have more guns per capita than almost any other country in the world aside from the US. It's nowhere close to as many as the US, but we still have a good deal. But yeah, honestly, like, okay, the one thing I do respect about the US is their freedom of speech. And if the US ever does forcibly annex us, I will gladly use that freedom of speech to protest against what's happening, and I will do it in a very uncivil way. But yeah, I mean, frankly, that is like, I mean, we don't have the same history as Americans. Like, it's funny how they acknowledge this when it's convenient, but they deny it when it's inconvenient. Like when they're talking about annexing us, like, oh, we're basically the same. And then it's like, oh, but if they annex us and suddenly we vote for all these big government policies, they're like, oh, we're so different. And you know what? If they ever do that, I hope we do vote for those policies. I hope we vote for public health care and mandatory vacation time and parental leave and uh, lower costs for post-secondary education and stuff like that. I hope we vote that shit in just to piss off the more libertarian contingent of Americans and just to make them realize what a mistake they made in annexing us. Because yeah, we don't have that history. Like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin are not our founding fathers. Um, the U.S. Constitution is not our founding document. Like we are a society that was not built on those values. We were built on the value of essentially being like loyalists to the British Empire and maybe adopting some very watered down forms of Americanism while here, but still ultimately being loyal to the British Empire. Like those are ultimately the values Canada's founded upon. Like how Americans had their phrase like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have peace, order, and good government. And like a lot of that would sound very un-American, like order, good government. Like, I don't know, that sounds pretty unlibertarian. Even peace sounds pretty unlibertarian, frankly. But like, yeah, honestly, like we have a different history. And I'm just saying it's not going to be as amicable as they think if they try to forcibly annex us in any way. Like like even me, like I am far right on many social issues, but even I am basically a socialist by their standards on a lot of economic issues. And they're going to find a lot of Canadians just do not see eye to eye with them on all this like libertarian privatization, small government, individualism stuff. Like we are not as radical about that stuff. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. That's all I gotta say for now.